Hello and welcome to the Social Ag Tech Podcast. I'm Dion and I'm here with my co-host Arian. This is the place to be for those interested in shaping a more food-secure future for our planet where nobody has to go hungry. Whether looking to learn more about the issue, find out more about how you can be making a difference, or how you can support and learn from the innovators that have already started along the right path, we will be covering topics for you.
Last episode, we took a look at the latest international goals and targets when it comes to addressing hunger and food insecurity worldwide, exploring recent events like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Summit. This set the backdrop at the international level and highlighted the priorities of public bodies when it comes to addressing hunger and transforming food systems, one that today is heavily climate-driven. And today, against this backdrop, let's talk local innovation that's helping drive food system transformation for more food-secure towns, villages, countries, and continents, as well as the support network out there helping impact innovators turn ideas into reality and then scale them to maximize the difference that they can make.
Especially given some of the challenges and shortcomings we've highlighted in previous episodes in remedying our food systems, from translating policy to action, the productivist bias, conflation of sustainability and stability, exclusionary decision-making, the risk of exacerbating existing systems inequalities, and the unequal impacts of climate change. Not to say that there aren't positive strides being made, but holistic and resilient change is innately diverse, and we wanted to take a look at some of the initiatives in place to achieve this, fostering innovation whilst being inclusive of low-tech, scalable solutions and the initiatives helping foster them. In our quest for a future where food security is a reality for everyone, everywhere, the role of innovative initiatives and platforms cannot be overstated. Among these, the WFP Innovation Accelerator is one such initiative, functioning as a springboard for ideas and solutions aimed at ending global hunger. Similarly, the Hult Prize is an annual competition which challenges young entrepreneurs to develop innovative ideas that tackle food insecurity. This initiative promotes sustainable food solutions at the grassroots level, encouraging a new generation of innovators to think critically about global food systems and how to improve them. Another cornerstone of innovation in this space is the FoodShot Global Challenge. This platform fosters collaboration between innovators, investors, and experts to address pressing food and agricultural issues. Through its annual challenges, FoodShot catalyzes solutions that are sustainable, scalable, and capable of transforming our food systems. From these platforms, several noteworthy initiatives have emerged. For instance, through WFP's Innovation Accelerator, we've seen the development of Aflacite, which uses scalable IR technology to treat toxin-infested grains in Africa. Others have focused on land rights for smallholder farmers and cold chain storage, just to name a few. Meanwhile, winners of the Hult Prize have brought forward disruptive solutions like microalgae-based proteins, offering sustainable alternatives to traditional animal protein sources. The FoodShot Global Challenge has also been a launchpad for groundbreaking ideas, such as precision agriculture tools that use AI to optimize planting and harvesting, reducing waste and increasing yield without compromising the health of the land. Each of these examples illustrates the power of innovation and collaboration in tackling food insecurity. By supporting these initiatives, we're not just investing in the future of food, we're contributing to a world where hunger is no longer a challenge, but a problem of the past.
For the rest of this episode, we're going to stick on the topic of innovation, as we each pitch an exciting startup that we believe, with scale, has the potential to make a significant impact on global food security. And today we're looking at startups from two different regions, Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. They're addressing challenges in different areas of our global agri-food system, all the way from making improvements on the farm to enabling better food access for the end consumer in food insecure communities. So Dion, over to you first. What have you got for us?
Yeah, cheers. Well, continuing along the theme of looking at the programs enabling positive impact, this startup comes from the first Sustainable Development Goal Agri-Food Accelerator program run by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. The program helps local innovators to successfully grow their businesses while contributing significantly to the UN SDGs. One of these inspiring startups is Thai company ListenField, where they're committed to a sustainable development for farming with a strong focus on SDG 2, Zero Hunger, aiming to help farmers increase their productivity and income while reducing their environmental impact. So how are they doing this? They're working with rice farmers to roll out their digital farming technology to enable smallholder farmers to transition from analog to digital farming, improving their yields and reducing waste. They also work to promote regenerative agricultural practices that promote healthy soil, biodiversity, and long-term sustainability. Their technology applies scientific principles and climate data to analyze relevant factors of rice production, the most produced crop in Asia. Using AI-driven modeling, they aggregate environmental data, monitor crop health, and analyze crop genotypes to predict and suggest strategies on how to improve growth speed and quality of farmers' crops. This includes farm management apps and dashboards, allowing farmers insights that help procurement and value chain processes, such as by predicted yields and driving evidenced seed purchases. So how does this help? Worldwide, farmers and farming communities are subject to low incomes, instability, and challenging working conditions. This is especially true for smallholder farmers in developing countries who suffer most from precarious living conditions. The use of technology to raise the efficiency of farming is a unique opportunity for farmers and their communities to build their capacities, save time, and increase incomes. The impacts of these interconnected insights help in-house agronomists to maximize crop health, increase yield, and reduce variability of field output.
Right, you've set me a good challenge there. So I guess that one was very focused on food production. So maybe I'll take a slightly different approach and look at the food access side. And admittedly, I'll cheat a little bit as well. So I'm going to pick two, but they are both addressing food access in a similar way. And if you think about it, I guess both of these, and the question that that came kind of to my mind when I first saw these is, do I ever really think about how the food gets to me, particularly perishable goods that arrive in front of you that haven't gone off in the 2 days or whatever, that they can stay fresh outside of a refrigerator, which becomes very important in a second. Well, in the global battle against hunger, one of the most persistent challenges is food distribution and access in developing countries, where every day fresh produce perishes before it reaches those who need it most. And without an affordable way to keep food cold in these regions, whether on the farm or as it's being transported or at people's homes, this is a massive problem that persists each and every day, leading to huge amounts of food wastage and soaring hunger. But with these challenges, there are a few innovators that are finding new ways to tackle this. And this is ultimately where solar-powered refrigeration comes in, which has the potential to be a scalable, sustainable solution that could revolutionize food distribution in these underserved areas. Now, this is where it comes to the two startups that I mentioned. So AkoFresh being one, and Koolboks in Ghana and Nigeria, who are leading the charge in this, both developing innovative, affordable refrigeration solutions powered by the sun for both industrial and personal use. So maybe first talking about AkoFresh. What they do is they build solar-powered cold rooms on the farms. So when first produced and harvested, it helps food last 4 times longer. And then at the other end of the scale, at the consumer end, Koolboks have created a refrigeration system for at home, which instead of relying solely on batteries, harnesses the sun's energy to create ice, acting as a natural coolant, keeping food fresh even when the sun isn't shining. Now, these refrigerators can maintain refrigeration for up to 4 days without sunlight, making them accessible in some of the worst off communities where electricity supply is unreliable and expensive. So by harnessing renewable energy, these companies are extending the shelf life of perishable goods, ensuring that more food reaches the plates of those in need. And that's my pitch for the food access side.
Really interesting. Actually, I'm not sure we want to keep this bit, but it reminds me of, do you know the concept of Zeer or Zeer pots?
No, I've not heard of those, so enlighten me.
Well, it's it makes me think that on some level, there's a lot of insight and knowledge that maybe where we've been losing in this like technological race and this productivist bias, and there are probably some methods that have value to be reintroduced and like augmented with technology. But Zeer pots is the simple concept of, effectively, if you take a clay pot, put moist sand and then another clay pot, and then you put some sort of wet towel on top. Even in the desert, because of the evaporation effect, especially in the desert, actually, especially where there's a lot of heat causing fast evaporation and wind to whip it away, you'll cool down the inside of that pot, right? So there's evidence, I think, that people have been making ice cream in the Sahara, 1,500 years ago. So
by using those, that's
it's amazing to think, like, what do we think is unachievable, but there is maybe the indigenous knowledge that exists that has figured out these innovative methods that can be brought back and scaled now with technology and with the right type of investment.
No, I think that's super important, and you should have held that one back for the next time we did this. But I appreciate you using it now as a good comparison to the and feedback on kind of both Koolboks and AkoFresh as well. But I think one of the things that highlights for me, and I think both of these, I think probably Koolboks especially, is like we talk about innovation a lot here, and obviously that's one of the main areas of focus of our discussion. But so often people think of that as the latest technology, the absolute latest, whether it's AI, blockchain, whatever it is. It's stuff that's only really been around, is still at the forefront of technological development. But I think the reality in a lot of cases and a lot of the time is things don't need to be the highest tech. It is as these technologies that might have been around for a long, long time become more affordable and become more adaptable to different areas and different practical implementations. That's where you can start using stuff that isn't brand new and something that we couldn't do 10 years ago to something that we can now afford to do at a much larger scale, so that the impact of that piece of innovation is much, much greater. Like solar panels, admittedly fairly modern, but been around for a long time. But as the prices come down, it becomes more realistic to be able to, for both farmers plus those in developing communities, to actually be able to afford and access them, right? And that's what we're now starting to see as these things have multiple uses elsewhere. Their prices are ultimately being driven down, and the affordability of these sorts of solutions become much more realistic in the context of addressing food insecurity around the world.
Really interesting. And again, to jump in with a little bit of a maybe unrelated but somewhat conceptually connected idea is quite a few years ago, I was working for a farm in Canada, and I was really amazed and inspired to see they were using Raspberry Pis to both catalog and analyze basic data about the irrigation system, but also to run the refrigeration room. And there was at that time like a nascent, like a hacktivist community of activist farmers basically who had this tech knowledge and who were trying to communalize this type of knowledge and make it accessible. So yeah, I wonder in terms of just the coding, like with these small Raspberry Pis or whatever equivalents, computers effectively...
We should just probably clarify as well, because when, admittedly, I do know what a Raspberry Pi is, but when you first said it, I was like, Raspberry Pi? And I was thinking of actual raspberries for a second. It took me a few seconds to go, oh wait, you mean the really cool, really mini, world's smallest computer that then has a ton of application that has kind of made that as a piece of technology way more accessible as well. I mean,
and not the only one
since it came out.
Yeah, and still improving, and exactly like you said, becoming kind of a bit more refined and a bit more accessible each time. And
sorry, didn't want to completely, didn't mean to completely interrupt you, but right before we get lost in Raspberry Pi world, where
before everyone,
I'm still thinking Raspberry Pis.
Honestly, I've never thought about the inverse. I think I didn't even cross my mind that pi is also pi. Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to say anyways.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think, look, I think all three of the startups that we've mentioned are all incredible in their own ways. And I think for me, the importance of a lot of them is they are locally driven, right? Which I think is the right place for a lot of these to be coming from, because at the end of the day, that's where the problems are going to be understood the best. The actual feasibility and the reality or the realisticness of a solution to address those problems is going to be way more likely, right? As opposed to a kind of globally driven or European driven piece of kit that is assumed a lot of the time, especially when it's technology driven, that it's just going to work everywhere and let's go out. And a lot of the time, I think especially with both consumers and farmers being very reluctant to change and often limited and struggling from what may on the surface look like similar problems, when you get down to it, that the issues and the feasibility of being able to apply something in kind of specific locations is often restricted by various different factors that differ from community to community. So with these examples from kind of across Thailand, Nigeria, Ghana, these are local companies that are not only coming up and solving problems within their own communities that they understand and are ultimately going to understand the best, and they're just taking and adapting solutions and technologies that are available around the world to their specific problems, which is amazing to see. And it's always really interesting to, we've obviously talked about both ends of the scale as well, right? With Koolboks being the full consumer end, ListenField obviously being very much on farm and looking at improving the food production, but also I think fundamentally as well, given a lot of the farming community in developing nations are often below the poverty line and themselves struggle with food security, bringing in more income to those communities is also significantly important. And it's, there's always that second angle to anything which is on farm. It obviously helps with food production as yields go up, but ultimately it also helps with profitability and the incomes of those that are actually producing that food, which is an important factor not to forget about as well, which I think ListenField seemed to be doing very, very well. And I think, it was a quick point that was covered off, but the kind of community element of it is so important. And it's amazing to see them doing that and enabling farmers to actually be able to better support themselves, both to then support the wider community, but also be able to afford a wider range of nutritious food for themselves and worry less about their high levels of food insecurity.
Yeah, and I think I just want to echo that in a way. Like there is also there's not just a knowledge of the problem, perhaps, like a deep contextual knowledge and ostensibly the solution as well, but there is, if these solutions are coming from the global south or the global majority, then there is you're shifting the paradigm from one of kind of externalized solutions to one of localized solutions. And I think not just in terms of like economic inequality, but in terms of like cultural inequality too, it's also important that these ideas are being provided with enough opportunity to sprout and manifest, as similar ideas have been nourished throughout time in the global north, right? So in our last segment, we discussed startups like ListenField and AkoFresh, highlighting how local innovations can significantly impact food security. While these startups showcase the power of technological advancements, it's crucial that we broaden our approach to include all scales of agricultural practices, especially those involving small-scale farmers who might not have access to high-tech solutions. This brings us to the critical concept of inclusive investment.
Inclusive investment means prioritizing funding mechanisms that support not just the high-tech end of ag-tech, but also scalable low-tech solutions that can make a real difference in less developed areas. It's about ensuring that investments reach the grassroots level, supporting innovations that are practical and immediately beneficial to smallholder farmers.
And this ties perfectly into our discussion about WFP Innovation Accelerator, FoodShot Global Challenge, and other types of challenges and incubators, which have successfully propelled various initiatives. Yet, as we push these technological boundaries, we must still ensure that these innovations are accessible to those at the fringe of technological advancements, such as the small-scale farmers we've seen benefiting from initiatives in both Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, and ultimately building on that, our next focus is, I'd say, is community engagement, right? It's not enough to develop technology. We need to ensure it's developed with the right direct involvement of those it aims to help. So by engaging local communities in the innovation process, we can tailor solutions to better fit their specific environmental and economic contexts. And I think probably also cultural contexts as well, which can often be forgotten, ensuring higher adoption rates and more substantial impacts.
With that said, let's remind ourselves how technologies like those used by ListenField are helping smallholder farmers in Thailand. By extending similar support to other regions and incorporating local insights into development, we can enhance the relevance and effectiveness of these technologies across different agricultural and cultural contexts, as you said.
Yeah, and let's not overlook the importance of sustainable models in companies like AkoFresh and Koolboks, which address food access challenges through innovative refrigeration technologies. By adapting these models to cater specifically to the needs of small-scale farmers, we can help ensure that the benefits of innovation are universally accessible.
Absolutely. Well, in conclusion then, while the path of innovation is filled with opportunities, its true success lies in its inclusivity and adaptability. As we continue to explore new technologies, our focus must remain on creating equitable solutions that include and benefit every stakeholder in the food supply chain, especially those who have been historically left behind.
And on that note of inclusivity, why don't we wrap up today's session? And let's remember that our goal is not just to innovate, but to innovate responsibly and inclusively. Stay tuned for our next episode where we will delve deeper into how technology and traditional farming practices can merge to create sustainable food systems worldwide.
Thank you for joining us today. And remember, every step towards innovation in ag tech is a step towards a more food secure future for everyone, everywhere.
Oh, what a beautiful line.